The Honda NSX was innovation. See, everyone thinks that innovation is just the simple pursuit of improvement or the technical ability to solve problems. However, it's actually much more than that. Innovation is also the invisible strength that makes certain people push boundaries further and further, sometimes at the cost of their own life. But innovation also has a hidden meaning, a meaning that transcends what the word innovation itself initially means. And this meaning expresses something important, something brutal and near unachievable. It's when you push so far away the limits of what's been done that not only have you broken all boundaries, but you have redefined what's even possible to do. And it's exactly what the NSX achieved. In a world of expensive, unreliable and unusable supercars, not only was it actually drivable and usable, but on top of that, it dominated the racetrack and drag strip over its competition. So much so that it became one of the most forgotten about supercars ever. Today we'll take a deep dive into the genius of the Honda NSX, from its deepest origins to its development and glory, and finally, how its unbelievable innovation made it one of the most misunderstood cars in history. Honda is a brand from Japan. And as a Japanese brand, it means that they build quality products, but in a rather different way. While certain manufacturers try to build the fastest car, the most luxurious car, or even the most expensive car, on the other hand, Honda builds the best car as an object. A Honda isn't just the best performing car, the best built car, or the best priced car. It is the best car as a whole. And this object should be usable, adapted to everyone and easy to use. It should be balanced. And believe it or not, this idea of harmony in the objects and in life is very present in Japanese culture. From Honda cars to the katanas, to martial arts, and even architecture. It's something you'll find everywhere. But the issue is that during the 60s, Honda had to face a brutal truth. As good as their cars were, they weren't really known much outside Japan. And if they had some reputation, it was certainly just for building some fun little motorcycles. And this only meant one thing. Honda had to fight. They needed a way to break in the arena of the big players, to prove to the world that they were really capable of building serious machines. And Honda went for the most difficult way. Enter the Formula 1 Championship for the 1964 season.
In a battle every moment more spectacular.
Los comienzos de la Fórmula 1, 1964.
And so they quickly got to work and built the beautiful RA271 Formula 1 car, the most powerful one of the whole field, with its glorious liquid-cooled 1.5-liter naturally aspirated V12 developing about 220 horsepower. The car was really good, and lucky for Honda that it was, because their very first race would occur in the challenging and deadly Nürburgring. Everyone had low expectations about Honda's performance. I mean, they were just an economy car brand, so how could they possibly do well in F1? Honda's presence at this race in the Nürburgring should have been anecdotic. They should have struggled in the beginning of the race, their car should have broken down, and their drivers should have crashed all over the place. At least, that's what people were expecting. Because what actually happened is that for their very first race, Honda managed to finish 13th overall, an amazing performance. And after only one additional year, they'd win their very first race at the 1965 Mexican GP. Mind you, Honda didn't have years and years of automotive experiences like other teams before their F1 debut. In fact, they had only ever built cars for a couple of months before entering the Formula 1 Championship. And it's exactly where it starts to become interesting.
9位チャンピオンのジム・クラークは調子が出ずずっと遅れて
The 1980s. An era full of craziness. And Formula One racing was no exception. F1 racing from the 80s was absolutely savage, with the rise of turbocharging, allowing for galactic power figures, as well as the advancement of aerodynamics to keep that insane speed during cornering. We also saw the appearance of crazy technology like active suspension. And all of that combined on cars that had less safety features than a fucking rolling coffin led to an extraordinary era for racing. Oh, and guess who dominated this particular era? You guessed it right, Honda. A Honda-powered F1 car won not 1, not 2, not 3, but fucking 6 consecutive years, from 1986 to 1991. Honda had done it. What could they possibly want more than that? Honda had dominated motorsports. They were the fastest on track, and it wasn't even close. However, they weren't the fastest on the road, and for that, they needed to build a supercar to fight their #1 competitor, Ferrari. However, this time, Honda wouldn't be really innovating in the form of practicality, reliability, or usability, like they usually do with the road cars. You know, the Civics and Accord.
1980 Honda Civic. It's got 20% more.
This time, Honda would be innovating on acceleration, handling. They would be innovating on performance, plus everything else I mentioned before. This is exactly where the real genius would start to reveal itself. To be honest, I think that Honda, given its racing pedigree, would eventually end up building some sort of road-going, high-performance car at some point. It was doomed to happen. However, they couldn't build such a car in a normal way, whatever normal even means to them. And during the early to mid-80s, most Japanese sports cars were just simple front-engine, sometimes rear-wheel drive cars that had decent handling and were priced affordably. They were simple cars, authentic machines made for the pure joy of driving, much like an S2000, for example. However, Honda had already been cooking up something rather interesting. They thought that for some reason it would be cool to take a Honda City, this thing, and change it to a mid-engine configuration, which pretty much means that the engine is behind the driver and passenger seats. The guys at the engineering team didn't really thought it was anything serious. I mean, how could it be? But that's until they actually drove it. The handling capabilities of the car, despite its format, were absolutely amazing because of its engine configuration. So much so that Honda didn't really want to leave this idea unexploited. It was too good to be left behind. Therefore, they decided at this very moment that their future supercar would adopt this mid-engine rear-wheel drive architecture. However, this was a bold decision because it meant something very important. Honda decided to beat Ferrari at their own game, and this was going to be extremely difficult. With such an ambitious goal in mind, Honda didn't fuck around. And so they immediately called Pininfarina to design them a concept car of Apple-like minimalism, savage aerodynamics, and 2150s era styling. And unlike most concept cars, which are deprived of any form of drivetrain, which means that they're just empty shells, the HPX for Honda Pininfarina Experimental was equipped with a 2-liter V6 from Formula 2. But funniest thing to me about the HPX is the fact that Pininfarina, who designed it, was the Italian design house, which was at the time responsible for designing all of the Ferraris. Honda couldn't have called someone better for the job. So yeah, the HPX looked savage and had an incredible engine in it. However, it was just a concept. an appetizer for the actual supercar that Honda was cooking, which was none other than the NSX, which stood for New Sports Car and X representing the mathematical unknown. And Honda didn't fuck around with this one neither. And the goals for the NSX were absolutely crazy. The car needed to have a top speed of over 168 miles per hour, a stunning quarter mile in less than 14 seconds, handling and braking significantly better than its competition. It should also have excellent practicality, ease of use, and reliability, because at the end of the day, it's a Honda. This was an unbelievable goal for the time, and that's simply because there is an enormous amount of challenges to face with building such a car, with the biggest one being the weight. See, a car of fast acceleration naturally requires a high-powered engine, and powerful engines are heavy. However, a car of good handling also requires things like big brakes and good suspension, which unfortunately add more weight. And because the lighter a car is, the faster it will be, saving weight of a high-performance car is crucial. And it's already a challenging process on its own. However, Honda wanted the NSX to be a sort of family supercar, and by that I mean that it would feature things like air conditioning, power windows, or a leather interior. But the problem is that these comfort features are fucking heavy, so much so in fact that they oftentimes represent the main difference in weight between a street car, like a BMW M4 for example, and its racing variant. So the question is, how was Honda going to successfully implement those comfort features in the NSX without making the car too heavy and therefore slow? There was two solutions to the problem of the weight. Honda could either sacrifice performance and build a car that's more luxurious and more comfortable, but not as fast, or they could sacrifice comfort and build an extremely fast, hardcore supercar, but that was not going to be anywhere near as usable as Honda wanted it to be.
Oh, God. No. How you? No.
But what if there was a third option? A solution that completely solves the problem by combining performance and usability without any compromises. This isn't possible, right? It actually is, with one of the biggest engineering innovations of the 90s, the aluminum monocoque. Nowadays, we hear all the time about aluminum in the automotive industry. It's become part of it. On top of that, one of the big focuses of the car manufacturers nowadays is material engineering. Everyone's constantly trying to develop the most advanced types of carbon fiber, titanium, or magnesium to improve the cars more and more. However, during the early 90s, this wasn't really the case. Very little people were actually investing in material science in the automotive industry. So much so that when Honda engineers shared the idea of an aluminum monocoque to their suppliers, they didn't even take that seriously. But there was a good reason for that. See, aluminum was an extremely challenging material to manufacture at the time. Therefore, Honda had to build a brand new production plant from scratch in Tochigi, Japan, but they also needed to develop new machines from the ground up and explore new manufacturing techniques in order to make the perfect monocoque for the NSX supercar. Building this monocoque was going to be a real challenge for Honda. However, the powertrain of the car was yet to be developed, so therefore a team of engineers quickly got to work. Here we really see how much of a pragmatic car the NSX really is. See, during the late 80s, most supercars employed huge V8s or V12s, which were extremely powerful and sounded glorious. However, they had some problems. They were certainly big, quite heavy, and most of the times, super unreliable. Therefore, because of these negative aspects, Honda considered a V6. And their thought process was, if a V6 with good technology can deliver similar performance to a V8 while weighing less, being smaller and more reliable, why even use a V8 at all? This is pragmatism at its core, and after some more work, Honda came up with a beautiful C38 engine. A 90-degree angle 3-liter V6 with an aluminum block equipped with Honda's PGM-FI injection system, VVIS intake system, and their genius VTEC variable camshaft system. This engine was extremely good, yet Honda still found a way to improve it by evolving it into the C30B for the later NSX variant. It had a 3.2-liter displacement and a few other modifications such as inox header. But the big question that we've all been waiting for: how much power do these engines make? 274 horsepower and 294 Nm of torque. But hold on, I can hear what you're thinking. This isn't even remotely worthy of being considered powerful, especially knowing the amount of technology and innovation that went into these engines. And believe it or not, I personally thought the exact same thing until I found out that the NSX only weighs between 1.25 and 1.4 tons. So yes, the gamble of developing a full aluminum monocoque from scratch, of investing colossal amounts of money and building new factories and machines just for it, had paid off, because the NSX was a truly lightweight car. In fact, the monocoque itself only weighs about 210 kilograms. This, combined with a nearly perfect weight balance, double wishbone suspension front and rear with forged aluminum wishbones, and a powerful braking system, made the NSX an amazingly fast machine. However, there was still one final check to do, the ultimate approval to know if the car was actually good or if Honda's work was just some more bullshit. We are in February of 1989 at the Suzuka racetrack in Japan. There, Honda is doing some deep testing on the NSX, and they are so fucking confident of their creation that they handed the keys to one of the most important people of the automotive scene. They gave the keys of the NSX prototype to Ayrton Senna. And let's just say that it could have been better for Honda. The NSX was more technologically advanced than almost everything else, and Honda knew it. Its monocoque alone easily made it the most innovative car of its era, if it wasn't for the Mclaren F1. And on top of that, the powertrain had a lot of technology, and the rest of the car was extremely well engineered. The NSX was perfect. So what could possibly go wrong? Senna got the keys from Honda and immediately went for a drive on the racetrack. And while they were watching him drive, the engineering team knew that Senna would be amazed by the car. They knew that coming back from his test drive, Ayrton would praise the car like no one else could praise. That's what they thought. Because what did Senna said to the engineering team as he came back to the paddock from his drive? It feels fragile. What a devastating sentence! I hope that in my whole life, and even in my worst nightmares, I won't have to feel what the engineering team felt after hearing what Senna had to say about the NSX. However, this wasn't the end of the story. This humiliation was so huge that the engineering team simply couldn't let it end that way. They didn't let themselves down, and just because of this situation, they decided to build an entire testing facility on the Nürburgring. There, the NSX would be torture tested and pushed to its absolute limit so the team could collect data about the monocoque's weaknesses. This would then be sent to Honda's next cheat code, the most powerful supercomputer of its time, the Cray 2. what is a supercomputer doing in all this?
Evaluate their ideas.
I actually asked myself the same question until I learned that Honda would feed the Crate 2 with the data they would collect from the Nürburgring testing. Then, the supercomputer would proceed to optimize the monocoque by identifying weak points to reinforce and areas where weight could be saved.
Than any existing machine.
And so, after just 8 months of optimization, the monocoque was already 50% stiffer and more lightweight than it already was. Senna was finally happy, and the NSX was finally ready.
The finalized Acura NSX drew considerable attention.
And it was la creme de la creme of the automotive production. One of the most advanced cars of its time, but one of the best looking as well. Its unmistakable silhouette was inspired by the MG EXE concept, and the overall design was done by Ken Okuyama, who would later be responsible for designing the glorious Ferrari Enzo. And he did a really good job. The NSX's shape is organic, its details are beautiful, and to me, the whole car feels extremely harmonic in a very Japanese way. Much like Jelena would say, when looking at the car, it feels like we're watching a kabuki theater performance. This one, however, does 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds. The quarter mile in 13.8 seconds and outperform any of its competitors in handling and braking. And despite all of this, the NSX's real feat was to actually be reliable, practical, and usable. I just couldn't believe it when I learned that the cabin's design was actually inspired from F-16 fighter jets for perfect 360-degree vision. And the interior, despite being comfortable and practical, is actually extremely tight and compact with all of the controls easily reachable to the driver, which is perfect for a good driving experience. It was so fucking laced by every possible car magazine that in 1991, everything else became irrelevant. The only thing that mattered in the automotive world was the Honda NSX. It immediately became the world's most successful sports car ever, and it outsold all of the Ferraris and Porsches. The Honda dealerships couldn't even remotely satisfy the demand for the car, and it was universally accepted that the NSX was the ultimate supercar, and that the rest of them were just machines from the past. At least, that's what should have happened. Because despite its insane performance and its untouchable superiority in every technical aspect, the NSX was outsold by Ferrari after just 3 years. And the factory in Japan was running at only 10% after just a few years. And this makes me want to cry. Because on top of that, people were starting to call the NSX boring, with quotes like, "You drive this one with a brain and fingertips." With a Ferrari at Lamborghini, it's bravado on biceps. Which pretty much means that while the Italian cars were exciting and passionate, the Honda was a rational car. But this is true.
Some things are worth the price.
And this contradiction is exactly where most people completely misunderstand the NSX.
This is a 1995 Acura NSX, and it's sublime.
Yesterday, I was watching a Doug DeMuro video about the NSX, and the example he was showing was in pristine condition. So much so that I thought that it was nearly brand new. But that's until I saw that the car had fucking 320,000 miles on it. I was in shock. But this made me realize how much the NSX is first and foremost a good car. Not just a missile on wheels like a Ferrari was, or a rolling coffin like a 911 Turbo could be, but a good car. Reliable, practical, easy to use. However, there could have been one problem. The performance of the car would need to be balanced, because otherwise it would lose its usability traits and it would become just like a Ferrari from that time. Uncomfortable, loud, with heavy transmission controls, a pure rawness machine. However, that is exactly what people loved and still love about the European supercars, even if they're not the fastest. People want the beauty, the sound, the emotion, the rawness. Therefore, just because the NSX wasn't as raw or mental as the Ferraris, people believed that it was just a boring, soulless car. Let's take an example, the Tesla Model S Plaid. It is unfathomably fast on acceleration exercises like the 0 to 60 or the quarter mile. So much so that it beats pretty much all supercars on this department. You'd need a modified car to beat that thing. And guess what? It's a comfortable and spacious four-door sedan. It's perfect. So where's the problem? Why does the majority of huge car enthusiasts hate this car as a sports car? Well, it's because it has too much weight, too much power for its handling capabilities, and therefore it requires too much electronics to be even remotely drivable. There's too much of everything, and not enough of what actually makes a good, enjoyable sports car. The Tesla Model S Plaid is a maximalist car. But Honda didn't use maximalism to improve the NSX. They didn't add more and more to the car until the spec sheet looked incredible, but the car only felt half decent to drive. Remember, Honda are driving machines. Instead, Honda removed weight and made the car simpler and simpler, and this gave more and more performance and the best driving experience. Not a brutal and raw driving experience like the Italians, but not an underwhelming one neither like most EVs. It was just a pure, simple, and connected driving experience.
Dans la bouche. Je pense que si tu la conduis pas assez longtemps, t'as pas le temps de saisir toutes les saveurs. C'est comme un bon vin, faut qu'elle se bonifie, qu'elle te montre. En fait, c'est une voiture à vivre.